Welcome to the Nanako Glennie Lenape Tribal Nations Native Power Hour, a public humanities broadcast. I'm Linda Little Bright Star Jackson, your host, and this is the native voice of Lenape Hokan and the Nanako Glennie Lenape Tribal Nation. I hope that you enjoy this episode. The Nanako Glennie Lenape Tribal Nation and the Native Power Hour is excited to welcome Cory Ridgeway with us here today. And Cory is going to do a program on how to figure out your dance styles. So Cory's going to tell us the different styles of dancing, the different types of regalia that you would wear for each one of those styles. And she's going to tell us, how to do those dances. So Cory, we'd like to welcome you.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you for coming to present this to us today, and take it away.
All right, well, first we're going to explain a little bit about each dance style as I go along. It's important to know the dance styles before you pick out which one that you want to start dancing. So let's start off with women's traditional. Women's traditional is one of the oldest style of dancing here on the East Coast. It started off as just being as women just watching the dancing. The dancing was more for men, and then women began to stay on the outside, and this has changed over time, and now it's a contemporary dance style. Take a look at, we have a more traditional Eastern ribbon skirt here today. This is one of the ones that my daughter wears. You see it has the floor work, the ribbon work that you find for a lot of East Coast tribes. It has little ribbons down at the bottom. Ribbon was one of the first things that was traded for in cloth, so that goes back to contact times. I really feel that women's traditional for women or girls who are just starting out is the first thing you should really try to do. It's one of the simpler dance styles. It doesn't have as many types of dance steps. There's lots of different types of women's traditional dancers, though. There's Northern women's traditional, and then there's Southern women's traditional. If you ever go to a powwow, you're going to see some women who are Southern women's traditional, and they're actually move around in a circle to the beat. And then you'll see them actually, when they hear honor beat, which is a loud strikes during the song, they're bend over and they're actually looking for that good path or that good road. And then they're gracefully come back up and keep going. When you see a women's Northern dancer, you'll see that a lot of times they're either have like a little hop step that kind of bounces, or they will stay in one place and you'll see their feet either go like this up, or you see them go like this. And then they're kind of pivot this way, and then they're pivot back. And during those honor beats, they actually lift their fan up and hold it around their head. So they're doing those prayers. Next would be men's traditional, which is the oldest style dance that we have. The men's traditional we usually see in the contemporary powwow world is a Northern men's traditional. It's a plain style. You see they have the one bustle on the background, like on their backs. They're used everything from hawk feathers, eagle feathers, whatever is specific for you and your tribe. It's a really good style for boys to start out with because, yes, it's the same thing as women's traditional as far as it's a simpler step to learn and to be able to figure out when the step and when the beat is. One thing that is different about the men's traditional is that they actually never back up. When you watch these powwow dancers, you're going to see that they are never going to dance backwards as a men's traditional dancer because that's a sign of retreat. And our men, we don't retreat. We bravely go into battle. Now, as far as what you need to start being able to dance women's traditional is you're going to need either a tea dress or a shirt-skirt combo, depending on what style you're doing. You're going to need leggings that cover from below your knee down to the ankle. And you're going to have moccasins, which is true for every dance style. To be in the circle, you really need to have a pair of moccasins. That's the first thing you should be learning how to make. You need a shawl to either be able to drape over you or to drape on your arm. And a lot of times they're even asked for a purse or a fan to go with it. And that way you have a fan to be able to do the dance steps that you need to do. Now what you need for men's traditional regalia is you're going to need a set of aprons, front and back. You're going to need side tabs. Those are the pieces that go on the side. You're going to need a pair of leggings or a pair of pants to go underneath. You're going to need your moccasins again. You're going to need that back bustle. And a lot of times they like to have something to have in their hands, whether it's a fan, whether it's a shield of some sort, whether it's a scarf. And be sure to talk to other men traditional dancers. I'm sure each and every single one will give you something different or a different step or a different idea of why they wear what they wear and why they hold what they hold. So in Native community, don't be afraid to ask. If you have any questions, go up to someone, ask someone. And a lot of times, especially if you even give them a gift of tobacco, they'll really sit down and explain to you or explain to your child about that dance style. Next would be men's Southern straight. Scoot over here. Now, this regalia belonged to Wesley or Will Mosley Jr. I have no idea when he was wearing this. I remember when I first met him, he was wearing this set. And you see that it has its set of aprons, like they usually do. They have a shirt that they wear that they can do multiple different colors for. They have a vest 99.9% of the time. Sometimes you see that they have a bandolier bag, or they just have a breastplate, and they too also carry the fan. And most of the time for Southern Straight, you see them carry a bag. And of course, moccasins, which is what you always wear in a circle. Now these are actually plain style moccasins. You can tell by not just the design, but how they're put together. A lot of times you'll see when you look at different people's moccasins, you can tell where they're from. If you see a seam that goes like this down the center seam moccasins with like these little flaps that go like this, sometimes you'll see quill work, sometimes you'll see floral work. You'll see sometimes where it's a stitch that goes like this. Sometimes it's a full boot. So really, like, moccasins really are what you look at when you're trying to figure out where someone's from, which is why it's important for you, each and every individual, to learn how to make their own traditional mocks. In my opinion, that's one of the first things you need to know, because it's the first thing you're going to need. And it's nice because I know that I'm Nanticoke, and I can say, okay, this is a Nanticoke style moccasins that I'm wearing. And then I can branch on from that. Because you really have to know who you are and who your people are if you're going to be deciding to come out into the dance world. Let's see. Next we have women's jingle. Scan over. This dress was made by Kayla Lookinghorse. She's a phenomenal jingle dress dancer. You see, you can tell where she comes from. This is a very contemporary style jingle dress. If you watch a lot of different jingle dress dancers today, especially in our contest world that we have, they usually can be put into two different groups. There's old style jingle, and then there's more contemporary jingle. The old style jingle, you see, they're not going to have any feathers in their hair. They're going to have a very basic cotton type dress, not a lot of applique. Sometimes you even see them not wear leggings, but their dresses are much longer, and they don't even carry a fan. A lot of times you see them, they'll have a scarf, and then when those honor beats come, they're going to bend down for the same reason that women's traditional bends down. And then you start seeing this really contemporary jingle that's coming about, because when you look at women's jingle dance step, this usually, when you old style is like this, you might get a little shuffle step, and that's where you live. Your feet don't come up high off the ground like in a lot of other like fancy or in contemporary jingle. But with contemporary jingle, you see that they're spin around and then spin back, where they won't make a full 360, but they're almost make a 360 and come back. You see that they're wearing bright colors and lots of applique. They're wearing leggings along with their mocks. There's lots of different things you can do as far as a women's jingle. Sometimes you see them wear a vest. Sometimes you see them wear like a circular yoke that you'll find on some old style jingle dress dancers as well, and some old style fancy dancers, but we'll get to that. This is a very modern style dress. I like to dance contemporary. This is one of the dresses that I use for a lot of different programs. You see that what they have are 366 skull can lids. For a more traditional dress, that's the number that they usually do. That's one for each day of the year, plus one for good luck. A lot of times you'll see, especially the first time that girls wear them, that they're actually stuff them full of tobacco before they go out and wear them. Like when they go to roll the jingles on, they've put that little bit of tobacco. One of my favorite moments is Allie Mosley, a young lady from our tribe, and she was just crowned princess, and she asked me to make her a dress. And one of my rules is that you never put, as a seamstress, you never put jingles on someone else's dress. That is their responsibility or their family's responsibility, because this is a medicine dance. So that's their medicine on their dress. And that's why when people are sick and you're asked to come out and dance for them, that's why it's important to remember these traditions of putting the tobacco in, of putting a correct number of cones. Even though a lot of times today, people don't put that many cones on their dress. They usually will stay around 250 to 3, stay in that range, because it's a lighter dress. It's easier for them to be able to dance in it, and it's competition. So that happens sometimes. Or they're just too young. Like, you're not going to put 366 cones on a dress for a 6-year-old who's just coming out and stepping into it. So, but one thing they do teach, especially around here, is if you want to do this particular style of dance, you need to either talk to a spiritual leader or go talk to an Ojibwe elder or another jingle dress dancer that you look up to be able to ask permission to do this dance. It originated with the Ojibwe people. There's a story that goes along with it that I really recommend everyone learning. If you're going to dance jingle, I know that I was taught one specific story, but there's lots of different stories. And basically all of them go, there was a young lady who was ill. She had pain in her side or her back, depending on the story. And her grandfather had a dream that if there was a dress that made a sound like rain falling on like a tin roof, and that sh 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 sound, and he's envisioned this dress, and when he woke up, he had his family make it, and they put the style dress on the girl. And when she first had to be carried around the circle, but by the time she made a full circle, she was able to hold up and walk on her own. Then the next one, she was actually able to dance. So that's why we say this is a healing dance. It's important to remember that this is a medicine dance. You're going to have to learn about it before you even decide to make anything for it. And again, this goes dress, leggings, mocks, possible fan, depending on what style. If you're going to do a fan or you're going to use a scarf. Let's see. The next dance style would be men's grass, and that started off as a plain style dance. The original grass dancers were made to push down the grass for the area that they're going to start their camp at, because remember, plains people, they move it around with the buffalo herds, so they have a teepee that they can put up very easily. So they put before they take their teepee down, they follow the herd, and then when they go to make a new camp, it's all brush. There's no lawnmowers, so they would have these dancers come out and they would really dance down that grass, and they were actually considered the first firefighters as well. So they would stomp out those brush fires. And today, when you watch them dance, you actually see they have a hard step to them. And a lot of times they'll still be extremely graceful. And there is an old style grass dancer versus contemporary style grass dance. You'll see the old style grass dancers, they will stomp their feet a little bit more. They'll do a different style of steps. Like you have to really look at how grass dancers are dancing to see it. When you see an old style grass dancer, because you'll see them do like a step that goes out to the side where they almost go into a split, and then they'll come back up really smooth. And it's one of my favorite styles to dance. I love seeing the old style dancers of every single type because it really reminds you of what it started out as. And then you see the contemporary and you're like, well, look at how athletic and like wonderful our people are, that we keep evolving and keep changing, and that we can still remember our old ways and come up with contemporary things as well. Now, as far as a men's grass, what you're going to need is very similar. You need a set of aprons, you need your side tabs, you need some type of shirt. A lot of times they're actually put the either yarn or ribbon or fabric on the top as well. A lot of times you see them have applique. They're going to have pants underneath. They're going to have moccasins on their feet, like always. And this is one of the styles that not many grass dancers ever carry a fan or a shield. They're one of the few that actually keep their hands out, or there's sometimes you even see them carry a braid of sweetgrass or something like that. And most of the time they really don't carry anything, which is unlike most men's style, or almost any other men's style dancing. Next would be, we'll go with men's fancy. And men's fancy, that dance originated out west, and that was what I was taught. It was started by a man named Gus McDonald, and that was back in the day when, our people didn't want to be Indian anymore. It wasn't easy or good or popular to be native. So a lot of our young people, they didn't want to do these dances. They didn't want to be Indian. So he came up with this really fast, athletic, energetic type dance, and he took that one bustle that was on the back for men's traditional that we still see today, and then he added another bustle on top, and he dyed chicken feathers and made it really bright, and he added these side pieces, and he made this really flashy, just cool style dance. And he went to his elders and said, is this something that, I really want to bring our young people back. Is this something that you guys approve of? And they said yes, and then it spread like wildfire all over Indian country. And now today you see hundreds and hundreds of men's fancy dancers go out there, and you pretty much need a little bit more than any other dance style, in my opinion. So you have to have your top bustle, your bottom bustle, your aprons, your side tabs, your shirt. You have to have, they're one of the ones that you can go without the pants if you want to, but they have armbands, which you have the leg pieces, you have the mocks, you have the little side armbands, they're like little tiny bustles if you really look at pictures of men's fancy. This is one of the ones that is really popular with a lot of our young people. It's just a harder regalia to put together, especially when you're first starting out. I would take the time to learn some of the other styles first and work your way up to that, especially if you're just trying out and you're just really learning. But if it calls to you, that's what you got to do. You got to go for the one that really speaks to you individually as a person. And if you have any more questions about men's fancy, please do talk to a men's fancy dancer. And I apologize to any of my elders out there who know more about each dance style that I'm explaining today, because I know this much out of all the knowledge that we have on Indian country. And the last popular powwow style dance would be women's fancy. That's the style that I like to dance. I'll start with this. So for what you need is either a skirt, short combo, or a dress. You're going to need a yoke. You're going to need a shawl. You're going to need leggings. And you're going to need mocks. You don't need to carry anything in your hands because your hands are going to be with the shawl. A lot of times you see a lot of all of our actually women's dancers, a lot of times they wear hair ties or bows, and sometimes you actually see the otters that they wear, that they are attached otters to the ends of their hair. And from what I was told is that during the time when a lot of our children went to boarding schools, as you know, one of the first things they did was cut off all their hair. So when they came back, they had this short hair, and in remembrance of the long braids that we used to have and the connection, a lot of times they started wearing these otters in their hair to represent that long hair that was cut. And these are the pair that, yeah, these are the pair that I wear. I have a pair for me. I have a pair for all three of my daughters as well. So I can always tell just by how it's tied together whose it is. And Women's Fancy is a really fast, energetic, upbeat dance. Again, there's a lot of people who say that it started off like it's the butterfly dance, but that's actually not really correct in any teachings that I've ever been given. I remember distinctly one time I was dancing at my home powwow, the Nanticoke powwow down in Millsboro, and I was walking around with my cousins, and we all switched to Fancy. And a lady there who was working the booth, I have no idea who she is to this day, but she asked me, "What's the meaning of your style dance?" And I said, "It's the butterfly dance." She's like, "But what does it mean?" And I remember being 9 or 10 and be like, "Oh, no, I don't. I know it's supposed to be flashy and energetic." She's like, "You need to learn." And from that moment on, I was like, "Okay, I was like, I'm gonna know my dance style." But I forget who it was, but a couple years ago, this before COVID, at Gathering of Nations, they had a fancy dancer be the head dancer, and she put on this beautiful lesson on what women's fancy dancing started off as. And it really was Gus McDonald's, and they had the men's fancy, and this was the counterpart to it, where it was showing off the athleticism of our Native women. And they would even dance this style in full buckskin with a shawl, buckskin over. They have an old style versus more contemporary as well. Old style, you're going to have a different type of step where you spin really fast. You have high kicks. It kind of reminds me of like a horse galloping, where it's like really graceful, but it's also a heavy, fast step, versus more women's contemporary style dancing, where it's still really fast and you still kick, but the shawl work, the way they hold it and the way they spin, versus like a horse kind of gallop step. They're both really beautiful, and I love watching both, but I really do like an old style women's fancy because you don't see it very often. And especially around here on the East Coast, there's not many old style fancy dancers anymore. Like if you go out west, I know there's plenty, but around here I miss seeing it. And I would love to switch to it one day, but that day's not yet because I don't feel ready. So even though I've been dancing women's fancy since I was 14, I'm still learning. This is not something that you can automatically learn overnight. And one of the other things I forgot to mention about men's fancy, and traditional and all of them, they're going to need their roach on their heads, where if you ever see the porcupine roaches that they wear, you're going to have it for pretty much every dance style. Men's grass, you need it. Men's traditional, you're going to need it. Men's fancy, you're going to need it. Sometimes the lengths make a difference. Men's fancy usually has a shorter roach, while men's traditional has a longer one. If you start looking at your men's Southern straight, sometimes they wear roaches, sometimes they wear their turbans made of otter, and then a lot of times your Eastern traditional male dancers, sometimes you see them wear one as well, like a turban. One of the cool things is if you look at the way that the feathers move on the roaches tells whether they're a southern dancer or a northern dancer. Now, your northern dancers, you see the feather, the way they have it attached, you'll see it spin. If they have two that just will spin like crazy. When you see southern, you'll see them bounce this way. It's like my husband likes to use like a rubber band thing. I don't even know how he does it, but you'll see his feathers going like this. So that's one cool thing you can look at. There's so many different little tiny things in regalia that not only express the person, but express where they're from, what kind of style they're dancing, to, okay, what type of feather are you using? If you see like the little fluffy plume for, like a lot of times you see males wear it on the side, you see a lot of females wear it. It's more of a feminine feather because of the placement that it is on an actual eagle, versus like any like your tail feathers and stuff like that. You see them for fans and you see that work. So not only are you using cloth material, but the different types of material that you're using as far as like eagles or otters or that kind of stuff, it all really breaks down and it's very complex that takes a long time to learn. But that's one of the things that I love about Powwow World, because you can really try to break someone down and be like, well, she has that on, that means that. And as a person who will judge, because I have judged at multiple different powwows in New York and in Delaware and in New Jersey, I look to see if that actually matches. Like if you're wearing a southern style outfit but you're dancing more northern, what's going on, especially learning about all the different style of women's traditional, because yeah, you have a flat step one, you have ones that kind of push up as they go, you have ones that have a hop step, you have one that stays still, you have ones that bounce up, and then they have their second song, and they're going to do their second song differently every time. So this is a process of figuring out what style calls to you, which one you like, which one you're actually willing to put in the time to learn and practice. Because I feel like a lot of times, especially with the younger kids, a lot of people don't make their kids practice before they go out into the circle. They say, okay, well, I got this made for you, I want you to go out and dance. And I really recommend against that, because even though they're small, it doesn't mean that they can't learn. They can watch powwow. Like my kids love to watch powwow videos on YouTube versus watching all the other crazy stuff that's on YouTube that I don't even know. But they watch that, they learn new steps. They're, you know what, I've been dancing this style. You know what, I think I want to try this one. Well, all right, well, you know what you have to do. They know that they're going to have to learn about it on their own, not just me giving them the information, but actually learn, look it up, watch the videos, practice the dance steps, then come back to me and say, okay, well, I did A, B, C, and D, and I've really thought about it, and I want to switch. Because I do encourage switching when you're young, specifically to figure out which one you want to start with. As far as do's and don'ts in the powwow circle, the main thing I see is people not having moccasins. You should always have moccasins. I can't stress it enough. There's a lot of places they won't let you dance without it, so it's important to remember. 2, I see a lot of people who don't match their outfit with their style, and I know some of that comes from, they're borrowing their cousins or they're borrowing their aunts that was passed down to them. It's important to remember to keep that conversation open, think about what that style is, and be ready to learn about it. I know that I danced women's traditional from 6 to about 13 or 14, and I went from a regular cloth dress. I had that, and then that my aunt made, and then my great aunt Fedora made, and then there was outfits that my mom made, and then I had a buckskin dress, and then I hit that good old almost teen age, and where kids really start figuring out themselves and their mind. And already knew that I was like, this is something that I wanted to do. I wanted to do fancy. So what I had to do is I had to go to fabric store with my mom, and she's like, all right, look around, design. And I already had a design in my head of how I wanted it to look, how I wanted it to dance. And as you get older, it's really nice to be able to talk to someone who knows how to make regalia, like myself, because we also understand, like, okay, well, you want this to dance like this, and they're understand what you mean. Because sometimes you look at outfits and the outfits won't dance for you. It doesn't quite feel right. It's hard to explain. Like, if you dance, you know, like there's some outfits that, like, okay, I really like this outfit, but I don't have that feeling in it. And then you have another outfit that you absolutely love, that you just want to keep wearing all the time because it makes you feel good about yourself, and it will dance for you. And that's my favorite outfit to make, where I can see that the outfit likes to dance. It's hard to explain, but it's like, yeah, the outfit likes to dance, not just you made this, but the outfit likes to dance for you. And that's one of the reasons why I even started making regalia and studying it. Now, as far as materials go, you see mostly everything up here is cloth. However, you can still use leather or any other material that you would really want, depending on the style. Like, if you're going to use this really bright fluorescent material, that means you're going to be a contemporary style dancer. A lot of times you'll see a lot of women Southern dancers, they will make their shirts out of that because, one, it just looks nice, it catches your eye, and it's pretty because, you know, we're ladies. We like that. If you look at a lot of the ribbon work that you find on women's Southern cloth, or you'll find it even on a lot of men's traditional as well, they have certain rules that the ribbon work needs to follow. Like, you have to have a cool color with a warm color, and the definition of cool and warm depends on who's teaching it. I know my daughter picked out these colors, and I was like, you know what, this looks nice to me. This says something. It's like, it says more about her than it even does about me putting things together. You see this floor work right here. I see that as the elderberry plant or flower, and sometimes you even see where they take leaves or they take other different type of flowers and they bead them, and that's not just representative, okay, you know, it's a flower, but no, it actually has a meaning behind the flower. So you see everything from cedar leaves to maple leaves to sumac to elderberry to strawberry, depending on like the little white flowers you see, especially on a lot of your Ojibwe northern tribal people. They like Micmac, they have the most beautiful floral work that you have ever seen, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And around here they had some of that, but it was more understated the further south you really got. And you see, if you go out in the plains, they have their own distinct style of steps. If you go out west, you'll see that they have their own distinct style. They're not going to have the floor work like we do. They're going to have more of a geometric sign, like if you ever see the hourglass symbol on a lot of different stuff, that's like generic, just butterfly. And when you start breaking down regalia, you actually see some families have a certain design that they use in everything. I forget who my husband said it was, but he said that there was a family out west that dyed all their eagle feathers yellow. So if you were a member of that family, you guys were the only ones who were allowed to do that because of that family or society. As far as coming up with your own regalia, especially for younger kids, one of my favorite things to do is say, pick 3 colors. Pick your 3 favorite colors. And usually I will actually go shopping with them and say, okay, here's those 3 colors you picked. What type of fabric do you like? Because there's shiny, there's a flat, there's this kind of shiny, there's like the satin shiny versus a sparkle. A lot of those men's ones, especially for like an older style men's traditional, you're going to be using leather, and you're going to be using at the most this type of satin, but you're not really going to see too many super sparkly fabrics. You're going to see that for like the more contemporary men's traditional dancers. So it's really fun playing and figuring out not only what you like, figuring out not only what you like, but what fits your category. Now, when you decide that, okay, so I think one of the easiest ways to do this is, number one, what style calls to you? Number two, look up on YouTube or on any other social media site, okay, what does the dancing look like if you don't already know? Like, is this something that I would feel comfortable doing? What do I need for that dance style? Then practicing the dance style, and then figuring out either if you can make something, or if you could find someone in your family or someone from your tribe to help make something for you. Because as a seamstress, one of my favorite things is when someone comes to me and says, this is what I want specifically, instead of, I just want something that looks nice. Like, anybody can make something that looks nice, but I really like being able to put the personality of the person in the outfit. So you can look at this, at least I can look at it and say, this is my daughter. This is Tani all the way. She is bright, she is fun, she is bubbly. She picked out all, she's like, I actually did the butterfly, but she picked out all the fabric. I said, you really want to do pink on pink on pink? And she said, no, yeah, this is exactly how I want it. I was like, okay, all right. And I made it, and you know what? It's her. And then as you look at this one for my daughter, she picked these materials out. And no, I had to tell her the rules, so she couldn't do some of the stuff that she really wanted to, because no, you're not going to pick a glitter to go down the middle. I want to keep you, it's like, you're an old style dancer a lot of times, so you're going to have to dial it back. And then she was like, you know what, I like this outfit. And now she's even wearing some of my older stuff, which makes me happy and sad all at the same time, because kids grow so fast. And then this is, let's see, Wesley's outfit. He likes this flame outfit specifically because I know that his father has a wider design that he likes to keep in all his stuff. If you ever notice, those little tiny little bits of people's personalities will come through, and then their kids will either decide they're going to keep that or they're going to go the opposite, which is always just fun and interesting. And that's one of the reasons why I really like looking at different regalias. And I probably spend at least an hour a day looking at other people's work, because it's fascinating how just one outfit can mean so much to a person. That's why when things get stolen or misplaced, or people lose things, or people take things without asking, it's really heartbreaking, because it's just extremely selfish to think that, okay, I'm going to take this and use it, but for that person who made it or that person who wears it, it really says so much about the person and who they are, who their family is, and where they came from, that it's just heartbreaking to see those things happen. But that's just a tiny overview of the dance styles, what you need for them, what goes with every single dance group, and how to start off with your powwow regalia.
Thank you, Cory. That was wonderful. It's so interesting to hear about the different styles and the different types of regalia that you need for each style. So I think that's really going to be helpful for those dancers that are still trying to figure their style, or want to change. Maybe they want to change to a different style of dancing. You've made that clear to them what they need. Okay, Cory, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, as you know, my name is Cory Ridgway. I come from Millsboro, Delaware, where I'm a member of the Nanacook Tribe of Delaware. I now reside in Bridgeton, New Jersey with my husband and my kids with the Nanacook Lenape community here today. I've been involved with fancy dancing since I was 14. I started dancing when I was 6. Ever since around the 14 to 16 age, that's when I really started traveling and doing competitive dancing, especially when I got past the age 18. I started traveling everywhere. As a family, we go all over the U.S. to do this, to do powwows and to do different ceremonies. Let's see, just this summer we were in New York, we've been in Maryland, we've been in Delaware, we're going to be going to North Carolina, we've been to South Carolina, we've been all the way down to Florida, we've gone out to Denver March, we've gone up to Massachusetts, we've been to with the Pequots, so we travel a lot, and we do a lot of different educational programs to teach about the culture, to teach about the dance styles as a family group, which I really enjoy because not only am I able to teach other people, but I'm able to have my kids learn how to teach other people, which is the number one priority for me.
My next question is going to be, how long have you been dancing? To kind of answer that for us. And is there you said you started like when you were about 6. Is there a certain age that, like, for certain style dancing is there a difference?
Not really. My kids have always had a regalia from before they could walk. That first home powwow that we would go to, my kids usually had a very simple traditional outfit, whether it was a girl or a boy. And as I got older, I kind of let them try out a whole mess of different styles depending on what they seem like. Like, okay, well, you're like, when I put on powwow music, you like to spin and run and play. Okay, we're gonna start you off as fancy now. Let's see how you do. And it's funny that sometimes it takes a little bit. Sometimes they don't want to dance. My son, even though he's always been involved, he did not want to dance until maybe around 8. Around 8 years old is when he was like, you know what? Okay, I think he didn't like traditional. He didn't like going out in front of people. He didn't. And us as parents, like it's hard when your kid doesn't want to do it because it's like, this is your culture. You really need to do it. But you really have to make sure they have their own space and their own time. And lo and behold, now that he's switched to grass dancing, it's like a switch went off. And now he loves to do it. He likes doing programs. He has danced by himself in front of probably 200 people without even a blink of an eye within a matter of a year of starting to grass dance. So that's one thing I'm like, yay, thank you. But as I started later because I was the same way. I didn't have a regalia. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And my aunts were like, you know what? It's time for you and your brother to get out there. This is something that you want. You're like, yes. Yeah, something like, you're 6. You're like, sure. And I went out and started dancing it. And I stuck with that style for a long time because I liked it. That's what I was comfortable with. But you can start as young as you want. As they can not be walking, they could just be learning how to walk. Something interesting that we specifically did for a lot of our older children is we introduced them to the circle. After they figured out what they wanted to do and they danced it for maybe just a little bit just to figure out, okay, this is what I like. We like to introduce our kids to the circle. We have a giveaway. A lot of times the kids has to be able to dance by themselves without you touching them. So you can kind of hold their hand like the first time around, but by the end of the song, they should be dancing by themselves. And that's a beautiful tradition that I know I need to keep with a lot of my younger ones. It's just COVID always puts stuff behind us.
And we had the opportunity to have some dance styles that you presented to when we had the Native Youth Camp, Connecticut Going Off by Travel Youth Camp. One of our power hours featured you, showing the Native youth how to dance and the different dance styles, and we have that on our Native Power Hour on the youth camp.
Yeah, and on that you're actually seeing I broke down how to do like the round dance and then also the different dance styles and how to do a crow hop. So hopefully the kids were really excited and they really enjoyed it. So if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out because it was really, they had a great time. It was really fun teaching.
And to check out the Native Power Hour, it's the youth camp, and you'll see Cory, and you're going to think her son is in there dancing. Okay, Cory, how about, has anyone influenced you in a certain style of dancing? I know you said you like women's traditional or women's fancy. Is there someone that influenced you into what style that you like? Or?
Honestly, there's so many different dancers who I look at that inspire me, even with the sewing, but as far as the steps go, and a lot of them I can't even tell you what their names are because I remembered when I was doing my homework before I started doing fancy dancers. I remember watching a lot of those like powwow videos and being like, that outfit was beautiful. I was like, and look at her dance, like look at how she's dancing. I was like, well, why is she doing that but she's not? And like that's when I was like, there's definite separation between an old style and then the contemporary, and even how contemporary it's gotten from that point. So there's a couple of different people that I love to watch. Like I love to watch Burn a Street dance. As far as women's traditional, there's a lot of them that I really like. I love watching Sparrow dance. She has her plumes like do this bounce that is just so graceful, and there's like those little tiny details in their dancing. I love watching specifically the older style women's jingle. That's just my personal favorite. Anyone's grandma who's out there dancing that old style jingle, I absolutely adore, because it's just, you can see how much joy it gives them. And I think that's probably the main thing that I look for when I'm watching any other style dancers. You can just tell who is absolutely in the moment and loving it, and that's my favorite thing to see, and that's what I find the most inspiring.
And I know you talked about the different pieces that you have that you would have if you were a fancy dancer or traditional dancer. Is there something you would suggest so that you could keep all of your regalia together and store it easily? Would you use
I like to use the garment bags, where I'll take everybody's, like when, like for example, I know she's going to grow out of this really fast, but she has about 5 to 6 other outfits. So I actually have a box for each kid, and I'll put them in a garment bag, and then I'll fold them up, and then I'll like save them. And now that my next one's coming up, my youngest one is 6, and she actually can fit her first Delaware style traditional outfit, and she's still figuring it out. She's in the past 3 years, she's gone from traditional to fancy to jingle, and she's still like, I don't know which one I like. So I like to break out the old ones and let her try it out when we go different places. That way it's a little bit different than dancing from the TV, but actually like feeling the shawl in your hand, feeling the weight of the jingles. That way it's nice that I had the opportunity to be able to give her a chance to actually feel the regalia, try it on, and she'll dance around, and hopefully she'll figure out what she likes, because she hasn't had a set yet. And she's like, nope, this is it. This is my style. And when she gets older, if she decides that she wants to change her mind, that's her. That's a personality.
Well, what advice would you give to someone who's trying to find or trying to put a regalia together? Would you suggest that they try to? I know you make regalia,
yeah.
And are you still making regalia if people are willing to? Yeah. They want to talk to you about making a regalia?
Oh yeah, I definitely love making the regalia. I really love to teach people how to make regalia. That's probably my favorite thing to do, because not only does it let me get to know them, but if they learn, then they can teach, and they can keep the process going. So I learned how to make stuff when I was around 15, and I really didn't study it till I got much older. After I had I was like, you know what, I'm gonna figure out how to make all this regalia myself, because my aunts had passed away and my mom had passed away. So there's people who were there to teach me when I was younger, and I didn't pay attention like I should have. now I was like, okay, well, now I have to be the one who bears this, and I need to make sure that my kids learn it. Now, for anyone who has no idea where to start and are from around our area, you can feel free to contact the Nanticoke Lenni Lenape Tribal Store, and they actually have my business cards, and they have some of my products in there as well. Like I have some ties, I have some ribbon skirts, and also talk to the people who are in your tribe around you. There's a lot of different seamstresses who are doing the same thing that I'm doing, who create for the people who are around them or create for people who are far away and support our tribal business.
Excellent, Cory. I just want to say Wanishi.
Wanishi.
And we enjoyed your presentation today, and I'm sure it's going to help a lot of our tribal community be able to figure what style they would like, and hopefully they'll come out and dance at our powwow next year, the second week in June, and have a good time and be able to dance their style that they select. So again, Wanishi, and we're glad to have you on the Native Power. Thank you, Cory.
Thank you.
I hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Nanticoke Lenni Lenape Tribal Nations Native Power Hour, Regalia for Different Dance Styles with Cory. The Native Power Hour has been made possible by a grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities, Sustaining Humanities through the American Rescue Plan, in partnership with the Association of Tribal Archives, Libraries, and Museums. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and catch our next episode. And again, my name is Linda Little Bright Star Jackson, and I will catch you next time on the Native Power Hour. Wanishi.